morning, guys. Welcome back to the shop. I'm going to be releasing this video after Christmas because what I'm going to be making is a Christmas gift for my daughter. So I will have been filming this video for the past 2 months, really. Actually, today's November 13th. So I'm going to be kind of working on this in my spare time because I'm going to try to still get out a video a week of other stuff. And so I just work on this in my spare time and then release it after Christmas. But what I'm going to be building her is a big stand-up box, jewelry box. And I don't have plans or anything like that. I have sort of a general idea in my head of what I want it to look like. It's going to have 2 open out doors with glass inserts and then a big drawer at the bottom for other stuff. One of the doors is going to open out. First of all, it's going to be made of mahogany. And I think I have enough here. I may end up having to buy some more. But mahogany wood, glass doors, obviously dovetailed drawer. One of the doors, probably in my head, it's the one on the left. Will have the little, I don't know what you call them, but the round, like foam sort of parts for sliding rings in between. So it'll just be a whole frame of just ring holder things. And I got this, it's kind of a stiff styrofoam or a stiff foam to make the ring holder part out of. I don't know what you would call that, but I'm gonna make it out of that and then cover it in this blue felt. It's kind of like a navy blue colored felt. And I think probably in that door, behind the ring holder, I'm going to put this music box. See if I can get it to go. So I'm going to put this, you don't have to figure out a trigger mechanism so that when she opens the door, it starts playing. But I'm going to put this probably behind the ring part. And then on the other side, the door's going to open up for necklaces, and I'm going to have to build like a carousel for the necklaces to hang on. And I've looked around a lot to try and find one, and they're non-existent. Not nice looking ones. You can find really shitty cheap ones, but I want this to look nice, so I'm just going to make one. And how I'm going to do that, well, I really don't know. I'll see when I get there. But I have a few ideas, but yeah, I'm going to have to make a ring carousel. I think behind a necklace carousel. And I think behind the necklace carousel, on the back panel of the box, in the necklace compartment or whatever, I'm going to try to get a mirror back there. And then, then a drawer on the bottom for other sort of odds and ends kind of stuff. I think that's about it. Today, my plan is to try and cut some glass for the doors. I've looked around, I've tried to find, getting custom made glass is impossible to do online, and I don't know of anybody around here that can do it, but picture frame glass, which is what I was thinking I might use, is I think it's going to be too short. I can get picture frame glass that's wide enough, but I can't get it that's tall enough. So I'm going to attempt to cut a piece of my own glass today and see if I can get the dimensions that I'm wanting, which I don't even know what dimensions I want. Again, I'm making this up as I go. So, but yeah, I'm gonna attempt to cut this, and if it doesn't work, if I can't get it to work right, then I may end up having to just get picture frame glass, and that's not really ideal, but it will work if I can make it work if I have to. But the glass is probably the most important part of all this, because the size of the glass that I have is going to determine the size of the doors that I can have, and the size of the doors are going to determine the size of overall size of the box. So I have to get the glass done first, just so that I can know how to build, the dimensions for everything else. So that's what I'm working on today. So I'm gonna get started. Is 4, because I do 4 inches wide, and then there's, about 3/4 of an inch, maybe on either side for the wooden frame, by 8 or 4 by 7. 7's too short. 8. Yeah. So if I do 4 by 8, I think that'll be more or less the right size for the doors. I'm gonna put this on something. Put this on some cardboard just so it has a little bit of something under it. All right, wish me luck. Just in case, I'm gonna put some gloves on. I don't think I'm very skeptical about this working at all. Just gonna line that edge up with the edge of the bench. All right. That worked. That is exactly what I wanted to happen. Hell yeah. All right. So now I gotta cut it to the right length. Perfect. There it is. 4 by 8 sheet of glass. That was way easier than I thought it was going to be. And now, this will be the, I'm going to make, a frame around here, probably with a bead or something on it as the door. But that's the piece I need. I need to do that one more time to have the other door. Perfect. All right. That's the most important step. Alright, now that I've got the glass cut, I need to start working on the frame to go around the doors. I'm going to be using these. These are 1/2 inch by 3 by 24. I will rip these in half long ways. I will plane down the part that I cut because it'll be rough. And then I will try to, I need to make a groove for the glass to sit into. I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to do that because it's going to have to be it needs to be very thin because the glass is so thin. So I'm not entirely sure. I really think the thickness of a saw blade is all I really need. To cut that on here on the edge of this is going to be very challenging. And then I will cut the molding that I plan on using, which I think I'm going to use a little Roman ovalo to cut the molding on here. And then I will cut the miters. And I'm thinking I will probably do like a half lap miter because I don't think that a full miter that's just held together with glue is, it's not a very strong joint. I mean, it's just a butt joint that's glued together. So I'm going to try to do a half lap miter and see if that works a little better. It'll give it, if nothing else, it'll give the glue a little extra something to hold on to. So, and I could also drive a screw through or a nail if I absolutely needed to. I don't think I will need to, but I'm gonna make the joint in that way anyway. Alright, so I got these ripped, or I got one of them ripped in half. And I'm thinking, keep in mind I'm still just making this up off the top of my head, so I don't have a plan to go by. But I'm thinking if the glass is inserted into there about, I don't know, a 1/2 inch or so, there's going to be a huge amount of wood on either side, well, all around actually, for the trim, and I think it's too much. So I think what I'm going to do is rip these in half again and make them even thinner strips for the framing around the glass, because I think this is too much. I think it's you know, because I'm gonna have two of these doors. So imagine this again here. I mean, that's just an enormous amount of wood that's just there for the trim around the doors, and I just think that that's going to look a little silly. So I'm going to rip these in half again, and that should be the size I need for the trim around the doors, and it should look a lot better, hopefully. So that'll give me that'll make it about 3/4 of an inch, give or take. I mean, you know, I'll have to plane it down some, but it'll be about 3/4 of an inch wide, 1/2 an inch thick. Yeah, that seems like it would be better. Yeah, I think that'll be a lot better. Perfect. Yep. All right. Now I gotta plane these down smooth. I will lose a little bit of thickness when I do that, but it won't be enough to hurt it. Sticker off here. You would think a company that sells specifically to woodworkers would know not to put stickers on their damn wood. Whatever. I'm going to do the molding first so that when it's done I can see exactly how much room I have to play with for the groove for the glass. Because if I cut the glass groove and it's a little too close to the molding, then it's going to screw everything up. So I'm going to do the molding first and then I'll cut the groove for the glass. Kind of hard to see in the light, but it's kind of hard to see in this light, but that is one strip done. But that's one. I gotta do another one. Right here. Alright, there should be enough molding for one door and a couple pieces for the other door, but it won't be all of them. So now that this is cut, you can see this is the amount of room, wiggle room I have to work with for the glass to fit into. So I'm going to mark that more or less in the middle. I'm going to mark a line in the middle of this. And then I'm going to try to cut it with a saw. And I don't know how that's going to go because the saw is going to want to bend. I guess I could use a back saw. I don't know. I'm not sure how well this is going to work. But for starters, I'm going to have to mark it. It's about 3/8 of an inch. It doesn't quite fit, but it's very close. So that's good. I can clean that out with something else, a bigger saw or something, and that'll be perfect. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but there's the beginnings of a dado for the glass to fit into. It's a little rough looking right now, but it will come together. Alright, so I ended up getting it. What I ended up having to do was I took this steel ruler and put it in the hole and just kind of cleaned out the hole using the corner of the steel ruler. I know it's not ideal. It's probably not. I don't know how you would make a groove like this traditionally, like how it would have been done. But I got it done with the tools that I have, and now I have a very snug fitting dado for my glass sheet to fit into. And you can see that it's, it's loose enough that I can actually move the glass around, but it's tight enough that it's not going to fall out on its own. So it's actually the perfect size dado for this sheet of glass. But I don't know how well you can see but it runs the full length of this stick. Now I've got to cut this at, well, if I put it in here, that's the full length of the glass, and it'll need to be the thickness of this piece extra for the top and the bottom. So that's going to put my mark right about here. And that will give me the overlap I need for my half blind or half lap miter joints. So I'm going to cut this off here and then do the same thing for the other side, and then figure up what I need, the size I need for the top and bottom, and then start cutting the actual miters to put this thing together. Alright, I got this one done. I still need to go through and clean it up and get the excess glue off of it. But it's pretty much done. And you can see I did a sort of half lap. There's the miter joint, but it's not a full miter all the way through. So this side piece has a rabbet cut on, a rebate cut onto one side, cut onto the end of it, and then this other piece has a rebate cut onto the opposite side of it, and it just sits on top of each other. So I think that will be a lot stronger joint than just a full rebate that's glued together, which is what I have been doing in the past. But I think I like this a lot better. It's really not that hard to make, and it will make a stronger joint. So I'm gonna get started on the second door, because there's gonna be two doors, that open out. So I'm gonna get started on the second one. This piece will only be enough for the sides, so we'll have to cut top and bottom pieces out of this and cut the molding and everything. But yeah, I'm gonna work on this one today.
Now, I think I already said this a few days ago when I was recording, but in case I didn't, I don't have a chisel or anything to widen out that groove, so I was just using the corner of this steel ruler to just scrape out the insides and kind of widen out that groove so that the glass can fit in there. I know it's not ideal, and it's definitely not the way it was done before. It's not traditional, but it works. Alright, so I got all the grooves cut and all the pieces cut to the length I need. So I'm going to start actually cutting the miters on here, and all I do is mark a miter from the corner across and then I will cut that miter down to the groove that I made, and then I will cut across this direction to pop this end off, but I'll leave this little lip under here. There it is. And I just do the complete opposite on one of the long ones. I'll just cut a miter all the way across and then undercut the miter so that it'll overlap on this side. Do the same thing all the way around and it'll be ready to go. Alright, so I've got the doors pretty well done. I mean, they still need to be kind of cleaned up and oiled and obviously the hardware added. One issue I ran into with the doors is the handles. I'm not sure. I got these little brass handles. I got two different sizes because I wasn't sure what I needed. But they're either one, no matter which one I use, they're gonna hang over the door a little bit, and because of that, the doors, which I initially intended to close in on each other, I won't be able to because these handles are going to be hitting each other, and it won't fit. You can't get them on there like that. So I will have to have a divider in the middle of these, which is fine. I was going to have a divider behind the doors anyway. I just had no plans on it actually coming all the way out to the front of the box, but it's fine if it does. It's not. I don't think it's going to affect how it looks any. But basically, there'll be a 1/2 inch thick board dividing the two sections, and you'll actually see the edge of the board on the front of the box, and that way the handles can go on here without hitting each other. I'm still not sure if I want to use the little handles or the big ones. Either one will work. I'm kind of leaning more towards the little ones, but the next step is going to be figuring out. The next step is going to be to figure out the height of the box overall and then the width of the box. So these are about 9 inches long, and I think if I put a board at the top that's 1/2 inch, and then I guess I could put a board on top of that, but that won't matter. That'll be a separate piece. So a 1/2 inch board going across the top, and then I want a drawer down at the bottom, so that'll be another probably 3 inches, 3.25 inches maybe. So we're at 10.5, 11.5, 12.5, and I'll give it another quarter just to be on the safe side, so 12.25 to get to the bottom of the drawer. So my side pieces need to be 12.25 inches. 1/2, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5. I might just make it 13 just to be on the safe side, just so that it's. I think I'll do 13 by. So I'm gonna do 13 just so I'll have a little bit of extra space. If I want to trim it up later, I can, but for now I'm gonna stick with 13, just so I have a nice even round number or a nice even number. So how wide do I want the box to be? And that, I'm just gonna have to guess on probably, I don't know, maybe 7 inches wide. I could do, if I did 5, I have wood that's already 5 inches, so that'd be nice. So 5 inches is the widest that I have. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to, laminate on some more and make it 6 or even 7, but I think 5 should be plenty, I think, for the full width of the box. That seems like it'd be fine, especially if these are on the outside. Even if they're on the inside, that's still a pretty good chunk of room. And then, it'd be 5 inches, and then the backing would be tacked on the back. So it'd be a full 5 inches. It won't be, minus the backing. So 13 by 5. That'll make it a lot easier to cut because I already have the wood that's that width anyway. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 13 by 5 pieces for the sides, and then start figuring up the width of the box for the shelving and the drawer and everything. But I gotta get these 13 by 5s cut first. Hopefully. Alright, so I'm trying to figure out now how I'm going to put the doors on. If I want to do them on the outside of the box or on the inside of the box. Because that's going to determine the width that I need for the total width for the box. If I put them on the inside, and I leave 1/2 inch for the I just feel like that's too big. It's too wide, I guess. So maybe if I put them on the outside, but then I'll have to put a trim piece here, which is fine. I mean, I could do that. Here will be the drawer face, so that would work fine. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to put them on the outside. It won't look as good from the side because you will see my joints here. Yeah. I think that's what I want to do. I think I'm going to put them on the outside. And have a drawer here. Yeah. That works. So if they're going on the outside of the box, and there's going to be 1/2 inch divider in the middle, I'm at 10.5 inches. So if this is going to be 10.5 inches wide, the top board, I'm just going to tack on or probably just glue it on actually. And then I'll probably glue on some trim so that it overlaps a little bit. The bottom board I'll also just glue and tack on and cover it also in some trim. But there will be one board in the middle that will separate the doors on the top. It will separate these doors from the drawer. So I need to cut mortise and tenon joints for that shelf to be on or to fit into. I may actually just cut a dado across there and then just slide this in. Of course, this will have to be shortened to make up for that. If I cut a 1/4 inch dado on either side, yeah, then we'll have to cut tenons at all. That'll work. Yeah, that should work just fine. All right, these doors are right at 9 inches long. So the bottom of the dado needs to be 9 inches down from the top of the board. Put a mark here. I don't know if I have a 1/2 inch dado or not. Actually, this is one I restored on a different episode. I had to build that wedge. I don't know if you may not remember doing that, but I did do that. So I'm going to run a 1/2 inch dado. I'll mark that line a little better. Across there, and that's going to be the bottom of it, because that's going to be the bottom of the door sits there. So, and it only needs to be a 1/4 inch deep. So I'm going to set my depth stop to a 1/4 inch. I will need a fence. I'll probably just use this as my fence. For the edge of my dado plane to ride on, or to ride up against. Double check. think you can kind of see how it's going to be going together now. I do have the centerpiece cut already, or the divider. I had to glue up a section for it, but now I'm looking at the top and the bottom. I think I'm just going to cut them exactly to fit, and then I will cut trim pieces, like decorative trim. I'll cut like a swirl design here for the front, or let's see, yeah, for this bottom piece, and then the sides will just be plain, but they will also be, you know, a trim piece there. And then I'll do the same, and then on the top, I'll probably cut it to fit also. And then this leftover piece here, I can cut into strips, cut some molding in it, and then stick it onto the front and the sides, you know, where it overhangs. It'll overhang all the way around. I think that's my plan. So it'll actually overhang about like this. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that on camera, but it'll overhang like that, and it'll be decorative trim, you know, hand cut molding around the edges. I think that's what I want to do. Still not sure. I mean, everything, it could change, but for the time being, that's the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the bottom and the top to fit exactly, and then probably glue everything together, and and then start worrying about the trim pieces, which there'll be several. I mean, there'll be a lot of what's left. A lot of what is going to make this look nice is just the trim. So, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this bottom and top cut, and probably get this all glued together. I'm trying to figure out which side I want to be the front and which side I want to be the back. And I'm thinking this side will be the front because there's just a little bit of tear out right here. And so I want to make this the back. So this is going to be my front piece. This is going to be the front. I've got the dividers to go in still, and I'll just glue it in place. And once it's glued in, I'll start working on all the trim. Well, I need to build a drawer next, I guess. I'm gonna get this divider glued in, and then while that's drying, I'll start working on the drawer. I ended up having to take the divider out. Now, in retrospect, I wish I had cut a dado here and here for the divider to fit into, but I didn't, and now I'm having a problem getting this to align properly. So I'm just gonna move on to the next step for now, while I try to figure out what to do with that. I'm probably still gonna end up just gluing it in, but I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get it to hold itself up while the glue dries. For now, I'm just gonna move on to the next step, and I'm gonna start building this drawer. I'm just gonna use this 1/2 inch by 3, and then I'll tack on the bottom a 1/4 inch section for the panel on the bottom. I'm probably just going to do one dovetail on each corner, just because you're not really going to see it anyway. I mean, it's going to be in here, and it's going to be so small, so it's not going to need a ton of strength. And the inside of the box is going to be lined with felt, and really that's what you're going to be seeing more than anything anyway. So I'm not really going to get crazy with the details on the joinery. I'll just do one big dovetail on each corner. All right, I think I'm gonna put some like trim pieces around the bottom. Obviously this drawer's not done yet. I still have to make a face for it. And then I'm gonna put trim around the top also. But the trim, I'm gonna work on the trim on the bottom for right now. I think what I wanna do is make the same molding, this Roman ovalo molding on the trim piece here. And then those will be mitered and glued into position here. And then I'll do the same, I'll do probably a different kind of molding on the top. But I don't know, I'll see when I get there. But I'm gonna start off by doing these around the bottom. Alright, I'm going to break out the old miter box. I almost never use this thing. As you can probably tell by all the cobwebs. But it does work. And it's a little more accurate than I am. So, I'm going to use it to cut this miter. So I don't have to stress about it being off. This should be much more accurate. Saw is very dull, but that is probably as close as I'm going to be able to get to perfect. So I got this trim all done. I did end up having to cut a spacer to put on the front because the face of the door, or the drawer, the face of the drawer is going to be 1/2 inch thick. And I don't have a piece I can put in there to show you really, but I didn't want the face of the drawer to be overhanging the molding. So that's why I made the spacer to separate the molding from the face of the door. But I'm gonna get this all glued up and clamped and ready. Once it's dry, then I'll start doing the same thing with the trim on the top, and I will get the face of this drawer done. I may put a bead on the face of the drawer. I'm not real sure yet. But yeah, it's finally starting to come together. I think this glue will be more than enough to hold this together. Alright, I got the door, or the front panel for the door, cut to the width that it needs to be. Now I need to cut it to the height, and then get it glued on to the front of the drawer. And then I think what I'm going to do is put the little handles on the doors up here, and then I'll put one of the big handles on the drawer. I also, before I do the handle, I'm going to cut a bead across the top and bottom of this drawer, just so it's not so plain. Get some of this out of the way. All right, I think I'm gonna glue this first. Yeah, glue it first and then put the handle on. I think I'm gonna do it, I think I'm gonna clamp it while it's in the box. That way I know it's in the exact right position. I don't have to worry about, making sure this is, if it's on here to begin with, then it'll be perfect without me having to stress about, it being too far to one side or too high or low or whatever. So I'll just clamp it while it's still in the box. Alright, while I let that dry, I'm going to start working on this trim for the top. If you remember, this is the extra length from the top, and this is what I'll be cutting into the strips for the trim. It's 10.5 inches long, plus another inch on either side. Yeah. So I need 12.5 inches on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that out and then start cutting my miters. Let's see. Alright, I'm gonna get all this trim glued on, and then while that's drying, I'm gonna get the handle on the box and get the inside lined with felt. I gotta get this glued up first. gotta find the center this way and this way, so I can put this handle on. It's about 10.5. So about 5.25. Alright, the top is glued on. I'll put the doors on and just show you kind of what it's, more or less what it's going to look like. I mean, obviously it still needs to be oiled. There's still a lot of work to do, but this is kind of what it's going to end up being. But today, I'm going to work on getting these doors attached. And I have really no idea how I'm going to do this. For starters, I got to figure out what hinges I'm going to use. I've got a few different ones, but I'm not really sure which ones I want to use. Yeah, I think that'll be the first thing I do is put the hinges on, or I'll probably put the handles on first. I think that'll probably be the easiest thing to do. Just put the handles on first. And then I'll worry about the hinges. for some hinges. So, looks like I'm doing the decorative hinges, which is great because these will be the easier ones to put on. I do need to cut out a little bit of a groove for the hinge pin itself to fit into. But for the most part, it'd be pretty easy to do. Of course, the screws are going to hold these on, but I like a little dab of glue anyway, just for that extra holding power. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and use this piece and cut out the backing. I'm not gonna put the back on yet because I still have too much other stuff to do. But hopefully I'll have enough left over of this that I can use it as the backboard for the ring holder. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cut up just so I'll know how much extra wood I have to play with. this is what I've got left to use. That's not bad. Yeah, I could put it all the way up close to the door. So now I'm going to cut a bunch of these this length and start gluing them onto this panel, all the way up the panel, and then I will cover all that in the blue felt, the same blue felt that's in the drawer. So that glue, this glue, it works pretty well on the fabric, but it doesn't do anything for the wood. So I've had to take everything apart, and what I'm doing now is actually trying to nail these on. Well, I'm gluing and nailing them on. And then I'll have to recover everything in the felt, because it just wasn't going to work the way it was. So, but I'm going to try to use wood glue instead, and like I said, nail these on and see if I can get that to work a little better. Alright, so I ran out of felt for this last little bit, but I got some more ordered, and it says it'll be here before Christmas, so we'll see. But I started thinking about my next problem, which is going to be getting this music box in here, and I can't figure out a way to get this trigger mechanism to work, because I need it to push in and shut the music off like this when the door closes, and then when the door opens, start playing again. The problem is this wire is nowhere near long enough, and I tried to make another wire, but this wire is not stiff enough. This wire is too thick. I've tried a few different things and I cannot get this to work. Even if this was longer, I still don't think it would work, because I still would have to get it up and run through the front to the door, and then there would just be a wire sticking out where the door is, and I don't like that. It kind of, I got one set up to see kind of how it would look, and I don't like how it looks. But if you run a wire through there, I mean, it'll work. It would work if I did that, but you've got this wire here, and it just looks terrible, and I don't like that at all. So I'm actually thinking now that I may not use the trigger at all and just mount this on the inside of here, and she can just wind it up and it'll just play until it stops. And it won't have a trigger mechanism, so that, you know, it won't play when the door opens, but she could just wind it up whenever she wants to hear it. And that seems like it's probably what I'm going to end up having to do, because there's not a way. I've thought of everything I can think of, and I can't come up with a solution for this. Alright, so last night I got these rails glued on to support the ring holder, and I was thinking about how I was trying to think of how I could get this thing to work, this music box. And I think the problem is I'm trying to figure out how to get it back here, how to get the trigger mechanism to work back here on the door. But I think it'd be a lot easier if I flip it the other way, cut a groove here, and have the trigger triggered by the drawer instead. So the drawer would actually turn the trigger off rather than the door on the ring holder. I've spent a good amount of time thinking about it, and that seems like the easiest way to do it. And so I think that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to cut a groove in this, under this ring holder. I'm going to cut a groove back here and run this trigger through that groove behind this drawer, so that when you open the drawer, the music will start playing, and when you close the drawer, it'll stop playing. Then I will, once I get that sorted out, I will start working on making some sort of necklace carousel. Alright, now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna make this ring or necklace carousel, and I have actually no idea. I've looked online everywhere to try and find one to buy. This thing's gonna keep playing for a minute. I've been trying to find one to buy. I can't find one. Brousseau makes one, but they're never-endingly out of stock, so you can't get one from them. But I wasn't able to find another one. I looked everywhere. Rockler does not have them. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anywhere that had them. So I'm just gonna have to make one, and that's definitely not something that I'm prepared to do, because I have no idea how I would even do that. But what I'm thinking, and this may not work, so I don't know. And honestly, I don't know. This may not work, and I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't work. But I got these little hooks, and I think if I cut a block of wood, maybe I could even make it like octagon shaped. I mean, the shape of it's going to be irrelevant, but I think if I cut a block of wood, so I think if I cut a piece out of this, a block, put these hooks in it all the way around, drill a hole through the middle, and then run a screw through the hole. The hole will be loose here, but the screw will be tight in the top, so this part will be able to move, but it will be held tightly to the top. I think that will kind of work. Part of the problem too is these hooks are they have too much of a curve to them, so I will have to clip off, half of the hook to be able to get a necklace to even be able to get on there. So I'm going to try that and see how that goes. I think this is 4 and it's not quite 4.5, about 4 3/8. So probably a 2 3/4 inch block. It does seem a little too snug. Because once the hooks are on, it's going to be another. I'm going to use this instead. I don't even know what size that is. But I think that one's too big. And really all this is just to hold the hooks. So it's not really that important. This is 2 1/4. So I'll cut it to square. That's kind of generally what I'm going for. I'm going to put these hooks, I'll probably do 2 here, 1 here, 2, 1, all the way around. And then, like I said, drill out a hole for a screw to go through. I probably am going to have to clip off at least part of these hooks because it's going to be too, it'd be hard. I feel like it'd be hard to get necklaces on there as is. So I'll probably clip off some of that. But I should probably go ahead and drill my hole before I put the hooks in. I guess I need to know what size screw I'm going to be using. That will work. Yeah, that should work. I mean, I could go bigger. Because either way, it's not going to be, it won't be bigger than the, yeah, I'll go a size bigger. Like I said, I want the screw to be loose in here because this part has to be able to turn. So that's actually perfect, right? That's perfect size. Like I said, this is definitely not the kind of necklace holder or necklace carousel that I had in mind when I first started thinking about this project, but that's what happens. You get an idea for something, and then the woodworking part I can make any way I want it to be, but the hardware part always ends up being an issue because you can't always get, it's not always easy to get the stuff that you're looking for. Alright, it's not too bad. I think it'll be just the right size too. Before I put that on, I'm gonna clip these off. I'm pretty sure they're just they have too aggressive of a curve, and that's gonna make it hard to put necklaces on here. So I'm gonna go find some wire snips. As long as there's a half circle worth of hook, that will be plenty. Any more than that seems like it's like you'd have to be reaching up over the hook to get it on. So I'm gonna do just a half on each one of these, like that. If you can see it. I think that'll be plenty to get a hook onto, or a necklace onto, and it will hold it fine. So I'm gonna do that to all these. Perfect. Spins freely. That screw is, as hard as I was cranking down on it, it is really well stuck in there. So I don't think we're gonna have any problems with it coming out. And I think it'd be pretty easy to hook necklaces onto these rings. Yeah, that is not bad at all. And about 6 inches from the top. Okay, before I put any more screws on here, I want to test this out. Make sure everything's in the right position. Perfect. Exactly where it needs to be. Perfect. Alright, I just finished screwing this in. Alright, it's finally time to get some oil on this thing.